To me, the big thing for today is actually that Arduino is finally reaching, 1.0. Yes, I have the finally slide. So what's 1.0? The idea is that we took the Arduino that we've been working on for a few years, and then we decided that we wanted to stabilize it a little bit, so that if you write a book about Arduino, it doesn't become obsolete after a week. Or if you're making a class about Arduino, then you don't have to complain that your examples don't work anymore, because in the meantime we broke it. So we decided to just break it a little bit again, and then sort of stop breaking it for a while. So I think we're done breaking, more or less. Apparently, just nod, David. Just nod. Thank you. So we're not breaking it anymore. So if you go to this very handy short address, you can basically find this wiki page where we have published a release candidate. Last night we published it. The sort of release candidate 1 for Arduino. What happens is that we're going to give ourselves a month now to basically work with the community to test if everything works the same as the Arduino that you're used to. And also, we give time to the people who are developing libraries to update them to 1.0, so that we can sort of then proceed with like an integrated system that works properly. It has been a long effort, which probably started in March 2010, when we invited a number of people to come to New York and discuss with us, what should we do in order to standardize Arduino a little bit. And Michael Margolis was there, and also in the process we had the help of a lot of developers. There are on the developers list in Arduino, which is an amazing resource. So I have my memory is a bit like a goldfish, so I don't know exactly, I don't remember every single name. Philip Lindsay, you're there, so he was a great helper on the mailing list. Michael as well. A lot of other people that I know only just by sort of nicknames, like on the forum. People have written like 10,000 messages on the forum, and I only know them like Grumpy Mike. But then this morning I found Grumpy Mike, and we all took a picture with him, and we gave him a T-shirt. So it was like a lot of love and everything. So just to say that we couldn't have done it if we had such a fantastic community to work with in the first place. And a lot of people who do crazy projects, they force us to sort of make the whole thing work. Because when you wake up and you read on a blog that somebody actually made a satellite and shot it into space with an Arduino, for the first minute you're happy, the second minute you're actually shaking in terror because you're thinking, is this going to explode? And then obviously it makes you think about debugging in a different way. So we got a 1.0 core coming up. We have a new sort of refreshed interface for the IDE. The original IDE came very much from the interface of processing. But for example, processing had a stop button that never really did anything. So it was confusing for the beginners and everything. So we redesigned the interface. So you can see here the work of Nicolas Zambetti, who is a good friend of us, who was involved in making Arduino at the very beginning when we were in Ivrea. And then you see the work of Todo, George Olivero, who is our graphic designer, the man who makes the packaging and everything else. So in a few weeks you will see the new retail packaging that he's working on, and I think it's very beautiful. It's really so all these people have helped us work on the interface. Then Christian Maglie, you are somewhere over there holding a camera, yes. So he's one of our developers, and he's worked on adding a bunch of features to the IDE and the core. He's an amazing developer who can do backend PHP development. Then he can do, in the next hour, he would fix a piece of the core in C++. And then before dinner, he will fix the IDE in Java. And so, it's kind of useful to have somebody that can do everything. So we thought, so we have a new core. We have a new IDE. So we felt that we had to sort of, if there was something that we could do to sort of make another step forward in the layout of the board, to make it more flexible before we don't change it anymore. So when I always try to have meetings with Gianluca, which is the most difficult man to catch in the south of Europe. So sometimes I take long trips in the car so I can talk to him and he can't go away. So in one of these long trips we started to figure out how do we. So we decided to make a little change to the. No, we're not fix this. We're not fixing the spacing. That's not going to happen here because there's way too much stuff with this spacing. But and I apologize. I made a mistake 7 years ago. It's my fault. Shoot me. But maybe not. But the idea is that we added a few pins to the configuration of Arduino, which you will see coming out in about 4 to 5 weeks with the new Arduino Uno and Mega Release 3, where we basically added 2 more pins on the top line that you can see. So we placed the TWI bus. I would like to say I2C, but then Philips might sue us, so we say TWI. And so you can expect to find that bus always in the same place, because in different Arduino boards it was always in a different position. So it's kind of hard to make a shield that can work on multiple boards. So in this way, it becomes also easier to make intelligent shields. They have like processors on board, and they can communicate through a higher level protocol. And then we we're working on figuring out. There are new microcontrollers that we are going to use that have different voltages. Not all of them run at 5 volts. It's hard to find high power processors that run at 5 volts. It's like one part from Atmel on the AVR32, so it's not easy. So how do we make sure that when you plug a shield, the shield can actually auto-detect what's happening? So there is one little pin that tells the shield, okay, the board that you're talking to is running at, 3.3 volts. So that pin, it's going to be useful so that the shields that we make from now on will also work on other configuration. And then there is a secret pin that I cannot tell you about. No, actually, there is another pin, but it doesn't do anything. And we put it because we thought, okay, we don't want to change the connector yet again. So while we're there, let's just put another pin that doesn't do anything. So that if we come up with an idea later on, we just have to connect a wire. And so at the moment, it's there only for to kind of foster our imagination and try to find an intelligent use for it. And so you have this. So this is the Arduino Uno R3, nothing major change, which added a little protection diode on the reset circuit, which helps because there were some situation in which some Arduino boards had trouble while switching on. The reset was a bit, sometimes wasn't working properly. It was a strange configuration. You had to add a certain kind of pull-up on a certain pin. And it's like, and if it's Tuesday and it's raining, then the board doesn't. So okay, but in any case, this is the new one. So we cannot change the color at the back. So we started to put also some labels on the pins on the back, because why not? So we all obviously have Arduino Mega R3. Nothing major changed. So one new product that we want to talk about is this Arduino Leonardo. We added here the recommended price because I know that somebody was going to ask it about it, so I wrote it down. So the idea is that you see it here with all the connectors mounted, but this should be something that's like a low-cost Arduino with no through-hole parts, so you mount them yourself, so you reduce the cost even more. And essentially what's happening, we're using this microcontroller, the Atimega 32U4, that has USB on board. So for one, it has one less chip on board, so it obviously becomes simpler and cheaper. The other thing is that this having USB native on board, so we worked on a core for this particular board that makes the board, for example, behave like a mouse, or it can behave like a keyboard, or it can behave like a MIDI interface. So anything that you can think of that can be represented as a USB device, you can then. So we worked on this product with some very talented people. So a gentleman called Peter Barrett, who's from California, who wrote the core for us, which is quite optimized. And then the always amazing Zach Eveland, that at the moment is manning the Arduino table. But he worked with us on the Uno last year. So he helped us sort of take the work through to the final product. So the idea, again, this one will be available, let's say, in a month from now, because we want sort of the core and everything to be stable. So then when we release 1.0, it will contain the software for this. We have a few of these with us, and we will probably giving it out to a couple of people that are active on the developer list, so that they can help us test it, and then we'll give you a better schedule about that. So we are finally in the final stages of production of the Arduino Wi-Fi shield. So what we did here, there was a lot of work that was done by the developer community, and in particular Adrian McEwen, correct? Good, so thank you. And then there was a bit of Christian, there was a lot of David, there was a lot of work by two Italian developers who are called Domenico and Claudio, who basically, we worked on a library that can actually, on a new Ethernet library, that can actually make it easy for people to make other network libraries that share some common classes that are now in the core. So the concept of an IP address, the concept of a server and a client are now in a more generalized class. So if you have an example that runs on the current Arduino Ethernet, with only a few changes, it will also run on the Wi-Fi shield, but somebody could make a library for their own shield that actually requires very little changes. And again, I gave a preview of the work that we were doing on this one at the previous Maker Faire in California. Essentially, the way we looked at a lot of these modules that are on the market, that are, they give you Wi-Fi to serial. We were not happy because you cannot hack it, and if you cannot hack it, it's boring, then you go buy a commercial solution. So we worked and we used this AVR32, it's like a 32-bit microcontroller from Atmel, where the whole TCP/IP stack is sitting there, and it talks to this tiny module that you see in the top right corner from a Swedish company called H&D Wireless. So the interesting thing is that sorry, I was listening to the phone call. So the idea is that being the source code available, you can hack the TCP/IP, or you can add your own protocol. So my sort of dream is that people add their own, you want to make the Arduino chat with each other on Jabber, on Google Talk, you just add XMPP into it. So in a way, Arduino moves more and more to become some sort of a scripting language for hardware. When you have like these higher level processors that talk to an Arduino, and in Arduino you write the logic of your application. Yeah, so this is, again, going to be available in a few weeks. We're just, now that the library is defined and everything is defined, we can just go into the final stage of production. There's also something else that we sort of launched a little bit during the summer, but it requires a lot of sort of work. That requires a bit of work in a way, is this Arduino ADK. So it's this Mega with an extra chip that makes it work as a USB host. And this was actually originally designed by Google to make accessories for Android mobile phones. So what we did, we just took their design and made it more in line with the Arduino philosophy. And then we decided that we wanted to make it even more easy for people to be able to make accessories. So if you're a software developer, you don't know anything about electronics, you can buy this, and you can buy this toolkit that you see, these modules that we make that you can plug on top of the Arduino. So with this kit, which costs obviously more than $79, you don't even need to know anything about electronics. You just plug all the inputs and outputs, you write your code, and there is a section on our lab's website which needs a lot of work, we know. So Philip will send you the source code about the libraries. But we are working on a way that you can develop your Android applications with and accessories using processing, so you don't need to use Eclipse and all of that. And then, in the Arduino side, you just plug these modules, so it becomes very, very easy to make a prototype of an accessory.